Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. My name is Joe, and this week we are talking about The Perfect State, chapters 1 through 4. It's not really broken up by chapters, but section 1 through 4, however you want to say that, wherein we meet our protagonist, Kai, who turns out to be in some kind of Matrix-like world where his brain is in some kind of created environments by these weird overbeings, and he's the emperor of his little sovereign state piece of the world, and he's got other people that are real, that he's got an arch nemesis. He goes and he has to go on a date because the overlords say he has to procreate, so they have more live born people. It's very strange. That's probably the best way I can describe it. But that's what we're talking about today. With me as always is
Dak,
Jamie,
and Data.
So that's what we're talking about this week. Strap in, everyone, because the Sanderlanche is about to begin.
A meaning, a feeling, reason to be, a longing for a finality. And if I don't have a heart, then what is broken? But if time may come apart, we've been at the end. And if I don't have a heart, then what can hold them? We were blinded from the start, forever frozen, my friend.
So yeah, we got a very, very different from I think anything we've read sort of story here this time. Maybe it's a little bit similar to some of those like real short sci-fi things we read, but I don't know that even those are close to it. So what did you guys think of the first half of Perfect State?
So I made kind of a joke in the intro about it being pretty derivative and like Matrixy. And while I would still agree with that sentiment that this story is pretty derivative of like other sci-fi types of stories, I think because it's a novella, it actually works. And he's definitely put like a different spin on it than say like the Matrix. Kind of a more interesting spin. It's to me, it's like a cross between Matrix and Westworld almost. And so I do think it's pretty interesting. I'd be interested to read more stories. Well, of course, we don't know how this one ends yet, but I'd be interested to read more stories about this particular protagonist or even other people in different states, just because it seems like, you could have an infinite number of different kinds of stories with this sort of setup. It almost lends itself to like an anthology. So I'm sure that's, like I said, we haven't read the end, so maybe it all gets blown up at the end. I don't know. But yeah, I enjoyed it. As derivative as I found it to be, it was also enjoyable to read and interesting.
It does. I kind of agree. It does seem like there's a lot of potential for you could tell pretty much any kind of story, and then have it end up being, it's actually in this world where this is just this person's special universe made for them or whatever. So
that'll be the twist at the end of Stormlight. It turns out that it's all Hoyd's universe.
Yeah, it's the entire Cosmere is just in one of these universes.
Yep.
That would be funny. I would not enjoy that, but it would be funny.
The internet rage would be palpable.
Yeah, seriously.
The entire fan base would turn on Brandon.
Yeah, so I'm glad you said Matrix meets Westworld, because I had the exact same thought reading through this. Like, once I figured out, okay, it's a simulation, so it's the Matrix, but it's just them like designed so they can have like they have their tasks and everyone around them is fake. I'm like, all right, well that's Westworld. And then the main character's like, so it's okay, so it's Doctor Doom in Westworld Matrix, cool, because he's kind of an arrogant prick, but he was endearing as time went on. It's like the first few pages, I'm just like, you are just an arrogant shithead. But then, like, you learn, the world is deliberately crafted for them to rise up and conquer it and everything. It's like, okay, well, I guess that'll give anyone that sort of ego. So,
yep.
So yeah, like it was interesting. I like the world design. Like Joe said, it's nothing we haven't really seen before, but it was done in such a way that it was still interesting to read. So I enjoyed that aspect of it. As soon as he went on the date with the girl, I'm like, oh well, the girl's got to be his nemesis. Like I'm sure.
Predictions in the intro.
I feel like that's kind of just that's going to inform like anything when we start discussing the story. I'm just like, well, it's got to be that.
Oh.
Sorry, but yeah, that just hit me as soon as it happened. I'm like, oh, well, that's got to be that, right? Yeah, no, I like his little friends in his world. I like the Chancellor. Everyone's just like, I know you're a simulation, but you still just annoy and creep the piss out of me. Yeah, so like fun little side world. Yeah, like it would really lend itself. You could do a whole series of like little beats. It's like, and this one's in a cowboy world. This one's in a sci-fi world. This one's in a dinosaur world. Who knows?
Sci-fi cowboy world. It's
Yeah.
Firefly.
Yeah. As long as it's not dinosaur erotica world, I'm good.
Oh God.
One of those is out there somewhere.
I guess if every single person they got has their own personal matrix, then they're gonna rule 34 at some point, yeah.
He's like, I want to be a part of a world where I am a T-Rex that has sex with every other type of dinosaur.
Oh.
It's like whoever the Woad are, they've got this one programmer who's in the back. It's like, damn it, we told you to stop doing that.
Who let that guy on programming?
Yeah,
Seriously.
exactly. Teach that code monkey to code something else.
Revenge of Jimmy. Jimmy, we told you to stop programming that. No.
I like that he's an idiot.
And
He's
our
also a
incompetent,
programmer.
yeah, and our incompetent programmers. That's for sure.
Well, I really liked this. I thought it was a lot of fun. It took me a little while to figure out what was going on. Especially because it's so different to what we've been reading. I don't need my handheld all the way through it, but it's hard jumping into something, especially when it's a shorter story, that you're just kind of picking it up as you go. I feel like I've got to kind of pick up what's happening and then go back and read it so I understand what was happening. So that's just a bit of a struggle for me. Also, like as we know, I read crime, so sci-fi and fantasy is a bit different for me. So unlike the other people on this podcast, this was a new experience for me. I thought it was really fun. It might be a concept that's been done a lot, but I really liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun. At first I was like, oh, it's kind of like you've been put into your own personal video game. You know, you've got all these things. Like I was kind of visualizing that, you know, if you had your backpack or something. And okay, I also don't play a lot of games. So this is only drawn off watching Dak play Skyrim, that but your backpack or something, and you've collected all your bits and pieces, and you can draw on that and use that here, and you can draw on that when it's you see fit. And I was like, oh, that's kind of fun. You've been injected into your own reality where like you are the person in your video game. And then it went, oh well, our brains are in a jar, and I was like, oh my god, Futurama. Is it Gam Gam, Shabadoo, and
Yeah, the grandparents.
nothing?
The professor.
Anyway, that's what I was like, oh my god, that's what this is. But I very much enjoyed the Matrix parallel and the Westworld parallel. I was so far in my own video game track that I'd forgotten about those things existing. But it's a really cool concept. It could just keep going. Like, it's a short story, and I know we haven't finished it, but I'm almost like, oh, it's a shame it's a short story. I could totally get into this a bit more. And then the idea of throwing someone like from their world into a completely different world, you know, you're god emperor of this fantasy kingdom, and it's like, okay, put on a suit and board a train. Good luck.
What the hell is this thing? Sir, that is a gun.
Yeah.
Did they even tell him what it was called? It's just like, it's a
Yeah.
thing.
It was just
no.
suitable for the world. Oh, eventually they did. I think once he got in there.
Once he got into the fight.
Yeah. So I feel like there's some details in there so far that I'm like, are these important details, or is it just like filling a lot of space? But maybe it will come to fruition when we read the next lot of chapters. I feel like I know so much about what's going on now, and I just don't know how much of it is relevant and what to filter out. It's very busy in my brain, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool, a bit refreshing to do something really different, and actually then sort of see what we see as our normal life being so different for someone else. So, but also it's still kind of different anyway. But yeah, lots of fun.
It's Graham, and Shabadoo. I had to look that up.
I said Gam Gam, and I was like, it doesn't sound right. Graham, and Shabadoo.
But yeah, I'm kind of torn because it does. Like, I agree with you. My first thought is like, oh, I could read a lot more of this. Like this, I'm kind of on one level. I'm like, I want to find out about, like, let's get a prequel of him like rising to power in this thing, because it sounds kind of interesting. And then I'm like, but is it really interesting if like he can't die or anything? So it's just like.
Yeah, I like the idea that it wasn't all just handed to them on a silver platter. It's a world that makes them happy. Like they still had to tick boxes to get to where they get to. But obviously it's made easier in this world because everyone's kind of working with you, sort of. It's all kind of a grand design, whereas there's not really a grand design. If you decided to become God Emperor in real life, you're going to have people that are going to object. And then, yeah, of course, you can be killed and there's some kind of mortality cost there, other than this whole you're immortal because you drank this special potion or whatever. But man, like, I'd love to read about how he came to that not realization, but that was the age of awareness. Imagine being 50 years old, you think your life is half over, and then you're told, by the way,
Yeah.
this is the thing. That would be wild. It would just throw everything you thought out.
None of us has hit that yet, so it could still happen.
Oh, there we go.
God damn.
I guess I could ask my dad. He would know.
No, not if you're the main character, and
If your dad is just a sim.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm pretty boring. I doubt I'm the main character.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, I'm the main character, that I have not been taking over the universe as well as I should have.
No, definitely not.
But he was 300 years old by the time he conquered, so you got time.
It's true. Okay, let's do this thing. I don't know if you guys looked at the cover, but it's an interesting. I'm not sure what to make of it, honestly.
Hang on, let me flick back to it. All right, we got a guy extending his hand up with purple glowy around the hand, and a giant robot attacking him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't seem quite right.
We got like Fabio with a sword, and then Vegnagun coming at him. I don't know. It's weird.
It looks like the Iron Giant has had a really bad day.
Yeah, I can see that.
Go back and look at this cover. Let's see. Oh yeah, it is a whole thing, isn't it?
So maybe we'll see that later, or maybe that has nothing to do with the book at all.
This robot pops up and goes, "Are you a mutant?" No. Oh, wrong universe.
My bad. Have a nice day.
Fare thee well, citizen.
They do kind of throw us right into it with the guy being like, so yeah, I was on my 300th birthday that I finally managed to conquer the world. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like reading the first sentence, I'm just like, oh, great, get over yourself. You conquered the world. Big fucking deal, mate.
And then it's like, the next 50 years, I was kind of bored, but then I developed a nemesis. And then I feel like we don't really touch back on the nemesis for a while, and I'm like, but I want to hear about the nemesis.
Yeah, it really just like threw that out there and then started talking, and then he started talking about the Chancellor. I'm like, are we saying the Chancellor is the nemesis?
Yeah, it was a bit confusing.
And then we go into, like, there is not, even by the time we get to the end of the section, there's not a whole lot of explanation of the magic system in this world, but I guess that's because, like, it only applies to this one area, more or less, so we don't need, especially if he's going to spend much of the story outside of his own kingdom, we probably don't really need to know about it. But it is called Lancing, and it can do a whole variety of things, apparently. And I like, because we're used to Brandon's fantasy books at this point, you don't necessarily blink an eye at all the, like, there's magic, there's guys in plate armor hanging around, all this stuff. You're just like, okay, yeah, I buy that. And so it's an even weirder turn when later we're in like a 1920s gangster movie or something. And Shale, the knight, he's just like, you gotta figure out weather, man. It's annoying when we have to fly through bad weather.
Yeah, well, we just drove through a thunderstorm today, so deal with it.
Yeah, quit complaining.
And so yeah, they're chatting. He's thinking about how he's gonna figure out weather eventually because he can control weather in like small areas using the grand aurora that encircles the world or whatever. So he's like, I'll figure it out.
Just that section where they're talking about controlling the weather gave me flashbacks to, I don't know if you guys have seen, and there's a movie called The Avengers, not the one you're thinking of.
The Sean Connery
based on based on the TV show with so that had Ray Fiennes, Uma Thurman, Sean Connery. Absolutely awful movie. And like the whole thing is Connery's the bad guy. He's trying to take control of the weather and then blackmail the world into giving him money, and he controls the weather. I'm like, this is fucking dumb. And so this section where they're talking about, oh, I'll figure out control of the weather. I'm just like, please tell me you're not going in that direction.
That is like one of my list toppers for like so bad that it's fun movies. Is you got Sean Connery dressed up in a giant teddy bear outfit and like hamming it up as the bad guy. I love it.
I mean, yeah, it was fun watching him as a bad guy, and Ray Fiennes and Uma Thurman are always pretty good, but it's like, I don't know, it was just kind of, this is happening now. Like, you could tell it was a movie like where the characters are British, but the writers were American because they were so obsessed with their tea.
But that's one of those where like the Ray Fiennes and Uma Thurman characters, which I guess they're straight out of the show. I've never seen the show.
No, right. That was the 60s, wasn't it?
I think so. I was just like, these are kind of fun, like the concept with like the silly spy and like type stuff, and these two characters I could stand to see them in like a different movie with like a better story than the one that was written for this one.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But that reminds me of what's that? The Man from U.N.C.L.E. That's another spy movie based on a TV show that I really like that one, and I'm like, I wish there could have been more. I really
like that movie.
Yeah, it was great. But it just reminds me of that because I'm like, there's these characters that I'm like, these are fun characters. I want to see them in another story, but we're not going to get another one of those. Not just because it didn't do well, but because what's his name is the cannibal or whatever.
Yeah,
so.
Army Hammer was the Russian guy, and like, oh, that guy's career's in the toilet.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's a documentary to watch. House of Hammer. Anyway.
Nope. Okay, sorry. Back to this. It took me forever to understand what is happening here in this next part where he opens a letter. It's like the seal is from my spy networks. And then it's like, Your Majesty, I want to inform you that the Wode scroll has once again. And then he's like, oh no. He gets mad and like drops it. And he's like, it wasn't actually from my spy network. Besk just knows that I opened my spy reports first. And I had no idea what was going on. And I reread that like 3 or 4 times the first time. Like, what is happening here? Who's Besk and what is it's from the spy network, but not. I don't get it. So I don't know if anyone at all like had a similar.
Yeah, no, I was lost.
It's all these details that are popping up in the start of the stories because you just jump straight into it. So you have all these details come up and you're like, I don't know what that means. I don't understand the significance of it yet. Like, what is this? I don't know what's going on. But then once you get a bit more, you can go back and go, it makes sense now.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I thought it was, the way that I understood that particular portion was that Besk knew he wouldn't read it if it looked like it was from him. So he made it look like it was from the spy network so that he would read it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what I get to eventually. But the first time when I got there, I was like, what? But yeah. And they have a conversation about like, he's flying them through the sky on like a magical platform. And this knight's just like, man, I miss the old ways, like horses and stuff. And they have a funny little joke where he's like, oh yeah, that's just because it's part of your concept, the dashing knight on horseback winning the hands of fair maidens. And he's like, yeah, I had a bunch of hands, a couple arms, occasional foot. I want more Shale. He's a fun little guy. Hopefully he'll show up again. Though he's now happily married with 5 children. So I guess he's not. Although we find out here in a minute that he took like immortality potion also, so he may outlive the children. Who knows?
That's sad. Why would you bring that up?
I know, it is sad, right? But they're all fake, so it's fine. Although I guess we find out later it's like the creators or whatever recognize the rights of these computer-born or whatever they're called, machine-born. And so he's mad about the note, and he's like, Besk is way too smart for his own good. I gotta fire that guy and hire a stupid chancellor. Either that or hack Besk and rewrite his concept, which here's where we start getting into. I don't know at what point you guys are figuring out that this is all like a computer simulation, but that seems like a good hint there. He's like, I'll just hack that guy. But he's not really very good at hacking, so whatever. And then they have the thing where he's like, there's another robot, and the knight and Shale the knight says yawn, and he goes, you just yawned. You don't have to also say it, which I love that. That's exactly the kind of thing. And so he's complaining that he's getting older, that those old things like hunting dragons and finding magical swords just don't do it for him anymore. And he's just like, that's the kind of thing I needed in my youth. And now as I'm like maturing, it's not like the person that I am at this point or the person I've become. I don't even have to like do much running of the empire anymore. It pretty much runs itself. So it's like he's got like a senate and diplomats and stuff. So there's like some there's like democracy happening here, but he just maintains the right to step in if they do something just super stupid. Which, if you trust the guy at the top, that's probably a really good system.
If
Yeah, that's the real problem.
somewhere Rashik is going, oh fuck, why didn't I think of that?
So they get back to his city. It's a very big, nice city. His bodyguard is trying to bodyguard, and he's trying to argue against the bodyguarding. He's like, I'm your bodyguard. One of us has to be ready. Remember the time those sky nomads tried to pinch you? Which, that sounds like a fun story. Let's hear about the sky nomads.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun stories we don't get.
And here's where we start getting into, he mentions the Wode's age of awareness, where he found out his true nature. And then he's trying to avoid Besk, and Besk pops out. It's like, hey, we need to talk about this thing. And he's like, no, I got some important stuff I got to do. It's super. I got to go write this stuff down. I'll talk to you later. But Besk is not going to be put off, and it's probably a really good thing to have like a good lieutenant like that who knows when to follow orders and knows when to be like, no, I'm gonna, for your own good, I'm gonna not listen to you this time.
And thank God he's not the kind of ruler who takes that as treason and has him beheaded.
Yeah, although he was just thinking, it's like, I should get rid of this guy and get a stupid one. So
Taking new applicants. And what is your name? Jimmy.
So it says that in over a century of rule, this is the only time the Wode has called upon you. So if he became the ruler of the world at 300, I guess he's like 400 now. And so the Wode, the people in charge, has been sending communications through the Wode scroll, the only way to communicate with the outside, at least officially. And the Wode's letters have been gradually becoming more forceful.
Just picture these omnipotent people on the outside, just like writing these letters, putting them into the code so they can see it's like, stop ignoring us.
Seriously, that is so frustrating.
Well, it's like if they're looking into a computer simulation, like, imagine it's just like one of these programmers who's just like, why is the computer fucking doing this? I didn't tell it to run that program yet. Fucking stop doing this shit. I didn't say to do. Do the Wodes have tech support?
Right? Maybe. They have to like go in there. It's gonna be like Free Guy, where the tech guys for some reason go into the game and they have to dress up like a bunny or whatever to get the guy out. Not how that should work, but whatever.
Oh, maybe that's who the nemesis is. It's just tech support.
That would be hilarious. But so Besk is just like, why are you even fighting this so much? Like, they want you to go and do a thing for one day. And I don't know at what point in here, if you guys are thinking about it, that you figure out what he's being asked to do. But it's kind of funny that they have to go back and forth for a while. He's like, this is your duty to your species. And he's like, what's my species ever done for me?
Yeah, look, as soon as he said that, I was like, oh man, they want you to have a baby. Wait, your head in a jar. Oh.
Virtual baby?
I was like, I kind of don't want to know. I guess they just steal genetic material and clone you? I don't know. Sure, we'll get there.
It's not entirely clear why. It's not like, it's just, so yeah, this is where he brings out, I'm a brain in a jar, one of trillions. Why can't they bother one of the other ones?
I'm just imagining some dude holding two braids together going, kiss.
Kiss, kiss, kiss. Fight, fight, fight. No. And so we get a little more detail about here. We get, at the age of 50, they informed him that his reality was a layered simulation. And Besk is here. He's not one of the Wode. Our main character, who we'll call Kai for simplicity's sakes, but who's named Kai Romanus. That's a name. He's never met any of the Wode. He doesn't know what's actually going on out there, just what they tell him. So in all honesty, like, there could be anything out there. He might be the last brain left, for all we know, if they're not telling the truth. And so basically, he's like, if I don't listen, they could just change the world in a way that would make me do it. So but he's like, I mean, yeah, they need my DNA. Have at it. Like, what? And Besk explains, like, you have to interact with the woman. The precepts say you must choose her and she you, and then you must meet one another and perform the act. And he's like, why? And there's no answer.
Yeah. Our precepts must be obeyed.
Go and get busy.
It's for the fate of the universe. You must get busy.
I did do the nasty and the pasty.
Baby, it'll blow your mind.
Erotic.
Just the whole storm of Futurama quotes this episode. Yeah, I hope you guys are all enjoying.
The flesh or the spirit is willing, but the flesh is spongy and bruised.
Yeah, no, that's what he says. When he says, like, you have to do the act. Can't we just cuddle?
So then we've got the rules. Jin Wei's doctrine states that the essential morality of mankind is to create the greatest amount of happiness among the greatest number of people while using the least amount of resources. Which, yeah, okay, I mean, that makes sense. So like, are babies born and then they immediately cut out their brains? It's just weird.
That's what it sounded like to me, and I did not like that.
No.
Oh, yeah, it says they remove the brains when they're fetuses. So, yeah, that's...
Ugh.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a big
Each live-born gets an entire world in which they are the most important person of their time. Artists, politicians, everyone has a chance for greatness.
That's good. But they also get their brains cut out when they're fetuses. That's bad.
Yeah.
But they're the ruler of the world. That's good. But it's just their own individual world, and they don't actually get to interact with liveborn unless they're, killing each other. That's bad.
Expect procreate.
I do like that. His real issue seems to be he imagines all these other like millions of emperors out there, basically millions of other people like him, and he's like, I don't like thinking about that. Like, I had to work real hard to get what I got, and there's apparently a million other guys doing the same thing. And so finally he's like, okay, fine, pick a girl from the list, send her a request, we'll go have dinner. And then in the middle of the conversation, Beskha's like, dude, the wall. And the wall says, like, words appear in the wall saying, Child Emperor, I've created a nice surprise for you. He's like, wait a second, you're not allowed to hack stuff in my palace. That's against the precepts of engagement. And Melly, is who he's saying this is, his enemy, his nemesis. The precepts are only words, so are your screams. All right. Hardcore.
It's just like a bit overly edgy.
Yeah.
You will scream, child. You will scream. Which we've established he's like 300 or 400 years old, so the whole child thing is kind of condescending.
I guess if this guy's like 1,000 though.
Yeah, fair point. And he gets rid of the stuff with using his magic, and he's like, this guy needs to learn. He's never gonna beat me. Surely he has to see that by now. So apparently he's just always beats his nemesis, which that's a good quality in a nemesis. You don't want a nemesis who's always beating you. That's no fun. I probably also wouldn't one that I could beat every time either. Like, you want to mix it up a little bit.
Sure.
Otherwise.
Yeah, it's like a game of Pokemon where I grind it too hard. My nemesis never beats me.
That's exactly what it's like. Yes. Like, Gary just keeps showing up.
Yeah, I keep beating him.
Whoever in later games.
Yeah. Let's see. There's Gary. There's the redheaded kid. Yep. I don't know. I didn't play Ruby and Sapphire.
Played Emerald, but it was a long ass time ago. I haven't played the remakes.
And finally, Beskha is just like, okay, so you want me to choose the girl at the top? The list is sorted by compatibility. And he's like, you want me to choose the most compatible one? And Kai's like, no. Pick the one at the bottom of the list. We may as well have an interesting time. Which he comes to regret slightly later on. So that's the end of chapter 1. We've get a lot of information real fast. And it's like, okay, that's all out of the way. Let's keep moving. So they're going to go to a communal state. So the different places where these people, the liveborns, are like live or whatever is called, they're called states. Which, hey, there's your title, perfect state. I guess that fits right in there. But the communal ones, any liveborn is allowed to visit those. Although Kai does not make a habit of that. Meanwhile, his bodyguard wants to go with him, but he's like, no, if you go in there, it'll mess you up. Like, you're an NPC, basically, and if you go in there, it'll, like, change your backstory to fit the place we are, and that will not end well for you. Shale says, if Molly were still alive, they'd never have chosen you. The woad only picks the unattached. And so we find out that he was married or attached to a woman. She's been gone for 90 years.
She was a simulated person?
I guess so, yeah. And he says that I should have accepted the advances of one of the willing women around. I could have had a harem. I had a harem at one point before her. So he's done a little bit of everything in his.
So not all liveborn are required to have children with other liveborn.
I guess not. I don't.
Only when they deem it appropriate. Maybe
Yeah.
they know when the people are going to die, and they're like, "You're about to die, so we need you to procreate."
We need some more people. Like we're running out of people. Off you
That
go.
could be,
Yeah. His nemesis, is saying he's going to kill him pretty good. So
What was the wife's name? Molly.
Molly, yeah, that's the girl. He won't be able to use his magical powers in the other state, or at least most of them, the ones that require tapping into the aurora or whatever that surrounds his world. So that's going to be bad for him. And I just love when this random stuff about like his history comes out. Like Besk is like, "Hey, I've been researching in the tomes you discovered in the Great Hoard of the Lich Father. The seers' visions of the other states say this." I'm like, wow, that's how they got you the information about the other states, huh? So stuff that's innate, Besk thinks will still work. So not Lancing, but he apparently has mental boosts that speed up his brain processes, so those will probably still work. And he has healing boosts, which increase his ability to heal, and those might work. And Shale does not like him going on his own because he's like, yeah, healing, whatever. If something happens to you could die. And that's when we find out that Jinwei's doctrine says that you have to experience real danger or you'll never find joy in excelling. So there has to be a real chance that you can die. Which then later, his date seems to contradict that. But
I guess though, if the doctrine tells you that there's a real chance you'll die, if you think there's a real chance that you'll die, then you're covered. But even if you're not really gonna die, they kind of just gyp you of that instead.
I wonder if you can like jump into a volcano or something just to see if they'll save you. That's probably not a great way to test, but
That sucks. You were wrong, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you wouldn't. You just okay. Well, that's done.
Whoops.
I was wrong.
I regret nothing.
And so he gets a weapon that is supposed to work in the state, and some clothes that are appropriate. And I like to note that he's an orphan. The best kings always are.
You're in your own world, mate. How do you know? How do you know what the best kings do?
I was going to say the same thing. It's like, I guess the best kings in this world, but I feel like that's more the author like giving a wink to the audience. But
Yeah, fair enough.
and so what he can still use is a direct mental link, so he'll be able to talk to Besk while he's in there, which that just provides us with some fun commentary as things go down. And so when he gets in here, there's a flash of light, and he's on a train, a strange tubular contraption on wheels. And Besk is like, "Oh yeah, this is called a train. I've actually been reading about them. We might be able to use something like this to get between cities fast." And so he's kind of there's a long section of him trying to figure out what is up with these weird clothes he suddenly has to wear, like these uncomfortable shoes, the thin scarf tied around his neck. The collar was buttoned too close to the neck for my comfort. I know what you're talking about, man. I hate wearing a tie too. It's fine.
Yeah.
He's got like a fedora or something going on. Covering my regal hair felt like a shame.
These pants do not give the royal butt cheeks the right the right classiness.
Needs a velour skirt. It's fine. And so the city is called Maltese, which I guess is giving us a hint at what we're being referenced here. And he tries to explain what a gun is, where he's like, you point the tube at your enemy and you pull the trigger. And he's like, oh, like a crossbow. Yeah, like a crossbow. It's all good.
I got this.
Same old crossbow skills. They transfer. It's fine.
Well, but apparently in his state, they have aiming modifications to like auto aim for you. And he's like, oh yeah, they don't have those here. This might be tricky to shoot.
And if you're going to be God Emperor of your own world, you're going to want some help making sure you can aim a gun or cross.
He's coming to a new game and they've turned off auto aim.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, shit.
I was like, you're playing on easy mode, mate, with auto aim in your area. That's for scrubs. What are you doing? And so he tells him how to get to the place. He's like, you have a reservation for dinner. It's all good. And so he's walking through this place after he gets out of the train, he passes a street performer with a loud brass horn. And he's like, man, I got to make sure the people where I'm from don't find out about these horns. That's annoying. It says it has a slur to it, almost as if the music itself were drunken. I'm trying to figure out, are we talking about like a trombone or a saxophone? What are we doing?
I don't know. It could be any of them. I do like the idea of like somehow this takes off in his world and he just becomes overrun with tromboners.
He's like, no, why?
God, they're everywhere. And that's the advent of ska music. Yay!
And then Besk is telling him about how there's elections here. The local population chooses a liveborn to rule them. So it's like it's part of the game of this like common state where everyone can come, so they can try to manipulate elections and influence people to vote for them. Just it's you got to find stuff to keep you interested after a while, I guess. At some point they released the election update, and everyone was like, "Oh, finally, some new content." And I like he's just scoffing at like every 2 years. Pfft, the guy can't have much power if he's only elected for 2-year period. Forget that. And then he hears gunshots and just takes off, running straight for it without hesitation. And Besk is like, "What about not getting involved?" And she's like, "Shut up, dude." And so he comes upon a group of people. Some guys are advancing on a young woman, and she's shooting at them. They're shooting at her. There's another woman that was with her, but is down. And he's like, "Alert the woad. Something illegal is happening here." And so he rushes in to save the woman, shoots at the guys, helps distract them so that the woman can run. And he joins her, and he's just like, "You know this area better than I do. Which way should we run?" And then she raises her weapon and shoots at him. And because of his mental boosts, he's able to get out of the way of the shot and not get hit. And so he then puts 2 shots in her chest, and like he's thinking about how primitive it feels to be using a metal tube instead of the powers of the Grand Aurora. And then you got Besk back here counting shots. Like, you got 1 shot left, which makes me think of Archer. I don't know if anybody watches Archer, but it's like a recurring gag that he's in the middle of gunfights and he is constantly counting how many shots everyone has fired so he knows when they're out. And everyone's always amazed. It's like, "How do you know that?" He's like, "Am I the only one who can count, really?" And so as they walk up, he throws the gun at one of the guys and then finds a metal bar and pulls it out and smacks a guy with it. It's not Indelebrian, my enchanted sword, but it's good enough. He breaks a dude's hand with it. And that's when the guy falls to his knees and he's like, "Stop! What? Are you crazy? What are you doing?"
Stop hitting me.
And one of the other guys is like, "Okay, stranger, calm down, time out, pause, everybody." And one of the guys says, "Raoul, this is your own fault. You got into a melee." And he goes, "Doesn't mean you can hit me with a freaking bar." And the other guy's like, "Actually, it does." So I guess those are the rules. If you willingly initiate melee combat, then you have to take the results of it. And so they're like, "Oh, he got Jasmine. What faction are you?" "Faction? What are you?" And he's got a little device strapped to his wrist. He's like, "Hold on, let's see." And the girl he shot gets up and he's like, "Is this necromancy?" "No, wait. My shots did not actually pierce her clothing. It's just it's paint. The shots explode into paint when they hit." And she's just like, "What kind of dumb trap was that, Raoul? Did you really think I'd believe someone was coming to my aid at the last minute?" He's like, "That wasn't us." And so everyone just turns to stare at him, and he's like, I'm Chirominus of Alornia, God Emperor of," and the woman's just like, "Oh hell, a medieval statey." And the other guy's like, "Yeah, the kill was registered as a wild card." So, and now she has to spend 2 weeks unable to be seen by the local AIs. And Jasmine is very upset about what getting killed by a wild card is going to do to her rankings. And so they're all very mad at this guy for getting involved in the game here. And he's just like, I don't know what's going on. This is weird. And then they start making fun of him for being from a fantasy thing, charging in here to rescue a woman. And she's just like, "I don't even understand why the Woad would do that to somebody, make them grow up in a barbaric, primitive surroundings like that." Which I can see if you're from like a more futuristic state, why you'd be like, they're growing up like without, bathrooms or bone knitting technology or this and that. Messed up.
Like primitive people. Like, oh man, you guys don't even know how to use indoor plumbing.
We have to use magic to get rid of our waste. So yeah, it's all a game. You get points, you get killed. If you get killed, then the locals can't see you for a couple weeks. Very, I mean, yeah, this is the multiplayer version of the game, basically.
They're just playing paintball.
Yeah. But he does note, as like they're all looking at him, that he can tell that these are all like rulers in their own worlds, essentially. They look a certain way, they move a certain way. They don't give a shit about you, basically. They know that they're the most important person around. And I like that he's thinking about like these guys who show up and they join one of the local gangs and try to take over a portion of the city and run a criminal empire. I might have found that entertaining in my early 70s or whatever, back when I was a kid. But chapter 3, he shows up at the restaurant, and the guy at the door has like pictures of the liveborn he's supposed to let in, so that this guy doesn't have to wait in the line to try to get past the bouncer. And he's admiring the decorations and such when the woman shows up. Red dress, spiked heels, shoulder length hair, and they start getting into it. I like that she's immediately like, you know that it's good manners to rise in the presence of a lady. And he's like, well, it's also good manners to curtsy to the God Emperor, but whatever. And she's like, oh shit, you're one of those. Okay. Chirominus, the first of Alornia, keeper of the 17 lanterns, master of ultimate lancing, slayer of Galbrometh.
I love that she's like, I've been on this rodeo before.
Right.
I'm curious, like, so they give them this list of potential mates, and they don't like check these people, see, all right, what sort of world are they inhabiting? Like, what do they rule?
Yeah, I don't know if you get information other than like how compatible they supposedly are with you. That's the only thing we know for sure is on that list.
Yeah. I mean, like, the guys outside, it's like, they're just like, oh, he's a medieval guy. Like, fair enough. But, like, she's here specifically to meet with him. She doesn't even know that.
Yeah. I mean, if his name was on the list, it's Chirominus or whatever. I feel like that should be a hint.
He's probably not from the sci-fi world.
500.
Yeah.
Did you write a unicorn here? She says, and he's like, yeah, we don't have those.
Unicorn. I love that.
We don't have those anymore. Turns out they're really tasty.
So delicious. And she is Sophie from an emerging equality state where she led a civil rights movement and then served 5 terms as the first female world president. So not the first world president, but the first female one. I guess there was already some world presidents. And trying to be polite, he's like, oh, impressive. And she's just like, nah, it's not. I'm just playing into the role that they set up for me. She's very anti-establishment, as we're finding out.
Very.
And she tells, it's like, you're arrogant, but I mean, we all are. And then she kind of just like goes off on him about like how she knows exactly his type and lists off all these things about him. And he thinks at best, like, maybe we shouldn't have picked from the bottom of the list after all. And he's like, I mean, why are you even here and talking about how much you hate authority when you're the president of the world? And she's like, oh no, I stopped that. I just walked out in the middle of a World Senate meeting, snuck off to a high science state, learned some technology that wasn't technically forbidden in my own state, and then came back and armed a rebel faction with advanced weaponry and started a global civil war. And he's just like, that's horrible. Like, how many people have died? She's like, whatever, like, you never started a war. And he's outraged by her just killing all these people unnecessarily. And she's like, yeah, whatever. You discover that lost continent yet? He's like, what? No, there's not a lost. Yeah, of course there is. There's always lost continent. The programming will chuck it in there once things start to get boring for you and you need a new challenge. Keep you busy for another couple hundred years until even the Wode's technology can't keep your brain going anymore. And then they'll give you a few more years of peace before you die. I've read about fantasy states. So apparently there's some sort of information out there somewhere that you can read about the other states. And he's still unhappy about how many people she's killed in her state. And she's like, those are just pieces of a machine. Bits in a machine. And he goes, that's the most primitive thing I've ever heard. And I fought barbarians. So she doesn't see the machine-born as real people. She's like, it's all just a fabrication. And he's like, well, but what we feel is a fabrication too. Like, it's just signals sent to our brain. And so they have an argument basically about, like, you know, how are we really that different from the AIs in here? And honestly, at that point where your existence is total, like in the real world, you're just a brain and all of your existence is inside here. I don't know that you are that different, but I guess people can't program you to do things, probably. And he says, I'm pretty sure I've read that the Woad recognizes the rights of machine-born. Don't they leave a state running even if the live-born dies? And she says, and I don't know where she got the information, but she's like, yeah, but they eventually nudge the state back towards chaos and eventually inject a new live-born in there to grow up and rule it again. And so she calls him out and says, you've never done anything real. Something that wasn't just programmed, or that couldn't have been just programmed in from the start. And he has to acknowledge that she's got some points, and she's kind of surprised, like, oh, I didn't expect you to actually admit that you could be wrong. And he says, at least we can still die. And she goes, no, that's a myth. Like, I promise you, no live-born ever dies from anything except old age. Except for when you reach your later centuries and they allow you to interfere with each other's states. We can kill each other, but the simulations can't hurt us. And he doesn't want to hear that. But he's like, no, I mean, I believe you. I already knew. Like, I had a feeling about this. I just didn't want to be confronted with the fact that, I've never been in real danger my entire life. That's kind of depressing. The real reason I avoided other states and other liveborn was that everything we do feels like those guys out there playing with paint guns. It's all just a game. My secret worry wasn't just that I might be normal, but I might also be coddled like a baby in a crib.
Which, yeah, would definitely suck.
Yeah, right? Like, everything you've ever done has just been handed to you. That's depressing. And she says that she's never come to another of these live-born meetings before, but she was intrigued because this guy is the first one who ever picked her from the bottom of the compatibility list. And he's just like, okay, but if that's the case, why did you, put makeup on, beautiful dress? Like, you're trying to impress here. And then he spills some wine and looks down and finds words appearing in the spilled wine. I am coming, child. You will scream. He's just like, damn it. Not now. I don't even want to know how you hacked a communal state. And so he's like, okay, come on, let's go. And he basically drags her out of the restaurant. She's like, why are we doing this? And he's complaining about the shoes and how uncomfortable they are. What's wrong with boots as they're trying to escape from whatever's about to happen. And she's like, I mean, boots are ugly. And he says the woman wearing heels as long as a handspan. And she retorts that these are considered very fashionable, and it enrages my inner feminist to no end to wear them alongside a dress like this.
Okay.
She's just like, I mean, it does weird things to you to realize that the conservative establishment is forcing you to be a progressive liberal fighter for universal rights. If I'm going to buck the establishment, and that is the establishment, then I have to go against that also. I had to become a complete anarchist. And so she saw the words on the tablecloth too, and he goes, it was a message from my nemesis. And she's like, nemesis, what is this, middle school? I don't know what that is. That may be one of my favorite lines. It's like, I have no idea what that thing is you just said.
Our children are raised on the battlefield.
And she's like, how do you even get a nemesis? Like, undefeated dragon back home or something? No, it's another liveborn. And she's like, oh, you realize you're just playing into what the Woad wants, right? And she wants more information on this guy, and he says it's a long story. And she's like, well, it looks like we got a lot of steps. So, and that's when we move into chapter 4, which is about the first meeting with Melly in the border state. His first time in a border state, he rides in with a legion of 50,000 troops. He's on his little hovering platform. But he can still use magic here. So whatever it is, it's not like the communal state where he can't do anything. This is a border state where, like, the world of his state kind of is blended in here. But this border state is just very small. It's a little valley with forest on each side. But that's all it is. The only exits are the path leading back to their state and 2 other paths leading to other states where other liveborn rule. And living in this little valley are some primitive people with spears and wooden shields and violet skin. And the local trees make a kind of spice that allows these people to be superior warriors, fight tirelessly, recover from deadly wounds, all that good jazz.
Just when
that jazz.
like, all right, we're stepping out of the Matrix for a minute. We're going to Dune.
That is what you think of when somebody goes spice, right? So.
Well, it's not just because it's spice, but also it's like, oh, it's a magic spice that is responsible for all these wonderful things. Like, all right, yep, that's Dune.
And they have a special kind of metal that you can only mine in this valley. that will make spears that cut through steel like butter.
Conda
So it's like-
forever.
Yeah, exactly. So they're like, well, we need to get this stuff. We want this metal and this spice. And he kind of twigs to exactly what's going on here, as we find out, where it's like, of course, they would put something here that's very valuable that we would want so that we have a reason to fight someone else for it. And so they approach the locals and they're like, hey, don't you want to have an alliance with us? We're super powerful. And just as the chief is about to say something, he's like, okay, yeah, where is he? Who? The other Liveborn. I know you're going to tell me that you've met another guy like me and you want us to fight to determine who's the most powerful so that that's the person you'll ally with, right? I get it. So just tell me where he is. And they say that the other one's in the village. You have to come with us to meet them. And of course, Shale is not happy about letting the person he's supposed to be bodyguarding go off with a bunch of weird strangers. But Kai is like, no, I mean, this is what we're here for. So he walks off where he's going to... The creature I would come to know as Melly was waiting in the village, and that is the end of our 4 chapters. So it's kind of a cool place to end, actually. I like that. It's very dramatic.
Dun, dun, dun.
Bum bum bum.
So let's do some predicments for how the back half of this is going to go. I know Jamie called out Dak for doing one already, but let's. What do you guys got?
Sorry.
I don't know that I agree that she is possibly the nemesis. Although I don't think has he asked her name.
Her name is Sophie.
Sophie.
Yeah, Sophie.
Sophie.
She didn't ask, but she introduced herself.
She introduced herself, yeah. But because this is all set up by the Woad, and they gave him a list, and presumably he's met Melhi and fought Melhi before and would know. I mean, I know Melhi's king of robotics or something, but I don't know that he could circumvent the Woad to that level. So I don't know that I agree with that that she's Melhi, maybe a Melhi minion. But so I don't know. I foresee some possible game-breaking event where they break out of the Matrix and destroy the Woad because she helps him realize his potential and that it's not they shouldn't just keep going in circles and they shouldn't keep following this laid out plan for them. But other than that, yeah, I'm not. I don't have a lot of insight into what's going to happen. With something being so short, it's kind of like literally anything could happen. We don't have a lot of pre-info here to kind of inform what's going to happen next. So it literally could be anything. They could walk out of this dimension and into our dimension for all I know.
It's an interesting point. Like anything could kind of happen at this point. But so is it really possible that they could like get out and overthrow the Woad if they're actually just brains in jars?
That's a good point. So here you go. Here's what they do. They team up with Melhi. They put their brains in robots, and then the robots can somehow leave. I mean, now they have bodies, right? Like they actually have been put in bodies of some kind. I don't know.
No, they're just brains in jars, is what we're told.
I don't know then.
Although that is once again just what the Woad have said, so I don't know that we know that.
Told.
Yeah.
Like, you are a brain in the jar. Okay. Yeah, pretty much as soon as she showed up, I was like, well, that's got to be Melhi, because like it just seemed like, all right, this is a major character, one he knows nothing about, so this is going to be the subterfuge, like Melhi getting inside his head, because Melli's playing the obvious game with the words on the wall to distract him from what's in front of him, which is this girl that he's matched with, and yeah, if this guy can just hack every state that he wants, like he's figured out what Kai, well, she has figured out what Kai would do with the list, and has just tweaked it to set it. I don't know what the end game is. I don't know if Melli actually wants Kai's help in breaking the Woad system and getting out. Thinks Kai is probably the best person to help with that, and so the only way to approach Kai was as an equal, as an adversary, to get his attention. So I think that was the motivation there. But it's like now we're going into like this massive story of like how we met Melli, and I'm just like, well, this has got to like reference the fact that, you know, she's here. I don't know what other role Sophie could play, honestly. Like with her talk of bucking the system and fixing everything. She doesn't sound like she's just going to like fall in line and assist him in bringing Melly down. So no, I think she is Melly. And yeah, but I think the whole adversary thing was just, like I said, just to get Kai's attention and then get him on side.
Interesting. So yeah, I mean it has been a very dramatic series of you're going to scream type messages to eventually like, no, I want us to like work together.
Well, I mean, like, again, that could just be getting his attention, or it could be talking about the copulating, who knows. But yeah, no, I think that was just because, like, if you approach offering an alliance or asking for help, and Kai is the sort of medieval ruler who will just go, well, that's a sign of weakness, I'm going to try and take you down. So you put on this grand display of like, I'm not intimidated by you at all, so he will take you more seriously, and then you can make the offer.
I don't know if we know how long. I don't know if it's mentioned how long he's been like fighting Melly or whatever.
He said was like he was ruling the world for like 50 years and was bored, and then found the Nemesis, and then
so yeah, that'd
we
be
sort
about
of
50 years
speculated.
ago.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is a long game for Melly to be playing, if that's the case. That's interesting.
Yeah, but if they're immortal, like,
yeah, you have
got time.
Why not?
So my thoughts were along the same line, but I feel the need to come up with something else now. So I've been thinking, Melly, we've been adversaries for about 50 years. Is that about right? They spent 50.
That's what we figured out. We think.
Yeah, having a nemesis. I found it striking the resemblance between the name Melly and then Molly. They're very, very close together.
It's true.
no, yeah.
What if Melly is Molly? And there's two ways that this could go. Either Melly is not alive-born and is just another part of this thing, adventure, whatever the word want to set up, or Molly was alive-born, spending time in Kai's state. They didn't really die, just got bored. It went back to their state, and something's happened and has become Melly. But Kai also said the creature I know is Melly. So could liveborn be other things as well, not necessarily just humans? I don't know. Just
That's
thinking real wild.
interesting.
I don't know how any of these would pan out in the remaining 38% of the book we've got to read. I don't know how that would go, but they're just some other thoughts that I have. It could work.
I like that. I like this idea that there's other species or something. It's like this is the future of World of Warcraft world or something, where you get all the different species that eventually end up in jars.
True. Another thought that I had was, what if Kai is actually the only liveborn in here?
Oh,
It's like it's just one big experiment to see if it'll even work. Maybe he's the first liveborn.
that would be an interesting reveal also. So it's kind of like Joe said, there's so many possibilities.
Yeah, exactly. And so little book to wrap it up in as well. In the grand.
We got half left. That's okay.
half of the story, but that's not a lot of story.
It's true. Oh, I had one more thing that I was curious to get input on. So, having read how this world works, if you got set up in your perfect whatever sort of universe, do you have any idea what do you think it would be like?
Oh, I don't know. That's a really hard question.
Right?
Yeah, that's a really hard question. I don't know. I enjoy a good mystery. So I feel like if I was to be set up in my perfect world that was tailored for myself, I feel like there'd be a lot of like problem solving. I don't know what I would do, but there would be like using my brain that way, I think would be fun.
You'd be like the Sherlock Holmes of that world.
Yeah, probably.
That does sound fun.
I think mine would just be a perpetual cinema.
Nice.
Movies all the time.
Very nice.
I think for me, I actually really like maybe not the specifics of how his magic works, but I kind of like Kai's setup. So I would want something like that with magic that I could learn and master, but I would also specifically I'd want it to be more of like a feudal Japan style era with like demons and samurai and ronin, and I think that'd be pretty cool.
See, I think that sort of thing sounds cool, but I don't know that I have the temperament for like a fantasy sort of world like that. Like, I like having indoor plumbing and air conditioning,
Yeah.
and computers and things.
Well, you know,
So,
I could create that with my magic.
it's true. So I almost feel like my perfect world would be like what I imagine Mistborn Era 2 is going to be like, where it's, we got computers, internet, modern technology, but also there's magic. That could be fun. All right, so obviously for next time we're going to finish reading the last 4 chapters of this. So that'll be fun for everyone. And in terms of what we're going to next, obviously the book hasn't officially come out yet. I've been seeing crop up all over the place. Copies are getting out there. Big bookstores have already received their shipments, and some bookstores are less conscientious than others about street dates and holding books off the shelf until the right time. So,
oh my god.
Oh, really? That's disappointing.
Yeah, I know, right? But it's.
I would have thought that they'd be bound to.
Yeah, that's got to be a legal requirement, surely.
I think it probably is, but for a very long time I've seen that happen with various books, some that I followed.
Yeah,
you'll just hear like, oh, the bookstore in my city put it out early and I bought it. So I saw one guy post.
I've seen that happen here in town before.
I saw one guy post his book and he's like, yeah, I work at a bookstore and we were pulling these out of the boxes in the back and I just walked up to the front and it scanned and I bought it. So I was like, okay, well, that sounds like it's probably against the rules, but whatever.
Yeah.
Of course it's going to scan. Now a stock item.
But so, yes, that's I'm going to show you guys the Lost Metal. I saw somebody, it wasn't just American ones. Somebody got a UK cover. I don't know, or it was in the UK, but it was the first time I've seen the UK cover and it looks kind of cool. I was going to show you guys what that looks like.
This is illegal. You can't show us this.
I've been avoiding actual spoilers, but I have had at least one person in the Discord tag me and be like, so I'm 75% of the way through this book, and I think it's going to be too spoilery for you guys to read next. So there's a good chance that we will not be moving into the Lost Metal next, and we will have to go to war.
That guy doesn't know what's what.
I mean, like I said, we still have another week that we're going to be reading this, and by that time I will have had time to read the book and know for sure. But just to let you guys know, that may be the way that we're moving.
Would that mean we then have to get through all the Stormlight books that have been released before we can read this one?
Depending on what sort of thing is spoiled, I mean, I don't know if it'd be like actual characters, or maybe it'll be like story points, or maybe it'll be because actually in universe, the Wax and Wayne books happen after the currently released Stormlight books in the timeline.
Oh, okay.
Not that that's been relevant in any way yet, but it's possible that it could be. So,
I guess
it might be like a more general thing where it's like you find out something about how the magic in the universe works that is revealed better in Stormlight. There's all sorts of possibilities for what we could be looking at. And so it may be a situation where it's like we have to read one Stormlight book or all of the ones out. So I don't know. We'll see.
Well, we're probably too dumb to get whatever spoiling thing is in there, so we'll just read it. It's not a big deal.
So yes, we will find out by the time we next record. I should hopefully know what we will be moving into next.
Yeah. And by the time this comes out, we'll be back from the con. Yep. So if you didn't see us, you missed us. We were there.
You guys go tomorrow?
Yes.
We're flying out tomorrow. Con is the next day and the day after that.
Yeah.
Nice.
So welcome from the world of the past.
Oh, goodness. Since I knew that this might end up being a little shorter, the last episode got pretty long, and I knew that this one might be a little bit shorter, so I saved us some of the emails to go over this time. So we have 3 emails we can do and 1 review. So I'll read the new review first. So Joe, get ready for this one.
Oh, okay. So it's a review, so we got to do a Misty.
Yep.
A Misty.
We got a new review from Apple Podcast India.
Oh.
Yeah. This one is from Diarius, and the title is Makes Me Feel Like a Cosmere Newbie. And there's 5 stars, and it's The review says, apparently you can experience a Sanderlanche multiple times. The podcast has been an amazing way to relive theorizing, twists, and adrenaline that come with a first reading of Mistborn, and I can't wait to see the crew explore the rest of the Cosmere. Amazing for first-time readers, welcome, to follow along with, as well as for Cosmere knots, especially the fast ones who take one sitting per book, to revel in the thrill of discovery and predictions that the group so accurately makes. I have come to appreciate Sanderson's works so much more now, except for Spook's existence.
Yes. It's going to be a great con, I can tell you that. Anyway, hey man, that was great. That was a great review. You're a seeker.
Okay. Thank you for that review. If you guys want to get a misting power from assigned by Joe, then you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or another platform. If there's other platforms you want to send me your 5-star review on. If you would like to get a faring power, then you can join our Patreon. I don't think we have any new patrons this time. I'll double check, but
Double check.
no, I didn't.
The Patreon.
Wait, when did we last record? Yeah, no, we're good. Now for emails. I'm gonna start with our most recent one, actually. This one is from Katie. It says, "Hi, Data, Jamie, Dak, and Joe. First time writing in. I'm so excited to write in for the first time. I read The Final Empire for the first time this summer and found your podcast around the same time. My plan was to read along with the episodes, but that didn't last long. I've since gone all the way through. No, right, yeah. I don't blame you. I've since gone all the way through Mistborn and Way of Kings, and I'm a quarter way through Words of Radiance. You can count me among the ranks of crazies who binged the whole podcast in a matter of a few weeks. I really wanted to catch up in time for the Lost Metals release. Though to be fair, I skipped Elantris and Emperor's Soul episodes and plan to go back once I read those. Thanks for keeping me company through hours of data entry at work. Question for you all. Is there an upcoming book or series you're most looking forward to reading, and why? I went directly from Mistborn to Stormlight because of all the hype I'd heard, though I know that's probably not the best reading order for catching all of the Easter eggs. I'm sure Data has a personal favorite, but I'm not sure how much about the upcoming books the rest of the crew knows at this point."
As in specifically Sanderson stuff that we're excited to get into.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we're really guided through this by Data, so we just kind of shut our eyes and just hope for the best.
Yeah. I'll admit that the prospect of going into Stormlight is fairly daunting considering how huge that series is. Like, I gotta, if you said to me Warbreaker or Stormlight at this point, I go Warbreaker because it's a one and done.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, cool, we'll get the story in that, like, start to finish. Whereas Stormlight, like, not only long but also dense, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep. It's one of those with lots of different characters and lots of stuff happening. So there's
I can live with that, but
lots of world building.
Yeah, okay.
Our podcast will crash and burn in the first of the Stormlight Archive.
No, Joe's gonna especially love the first episode of the Stormlight Archive. So we'll do 3 chapters at the first Stormlight book for the first episode, and I think there are literally 3 time jumps in those 3 chapters.
Oh, great! I love it. I love a good time jump.
Look, not gonna lie, you said Joe's gonna love these bits, and I'm just like, oh fuck, is Spook coming back?
Yeah, Spook is the main character of the Stormlight Archive.
I was about to say, it turns out Spook is the main character of the Stormlight Archives.
Oh no, Kelsier took him through the portal and left him on this other world, and now it's the adventures of Spook in the cosmos.
Yeah.
That might explain a lot about potential spoilers. We couldn't read the next book because of Stormlight spoilers if Spook was there.
Yeah, if Spook hangs out, yeah.
Oh, gosh. I will say, as the person who knows all the stuff that's on the list, the thing that my personal favorite, as she says, the Data probably has a personal favorite, I think, of the stuff that we still haven't read yet, it's not even in the Cosmere. It's going to be after we finish the Cosmere. I think the Rhythmatist is one of my favorites.
You've mentioned that a few times, yeah.
Yeah, you said that a few times.
Really fun, very, very different from everything else that we've done, and I'll be excited when we get that far someday.
I've actually got a question for you on in a similar sort of note, and I'm not going to ask for the specific answers or anything because that would obviously be spoiler heavy, but so Song of Ice and Fire, the Red Wedding is the big thing in there that everyone's like, oh, you kind of want to see everyone's reaction to that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, without telling us what it is or even what book it's in, is there a specific moment in Stormlight that you are hanging out for us to get to? Like that's that shattering or something.
So
Not necessarily that emotionally shattering, but just that holy fuck moment.
probably not in the exact same way. I kind of mentioned last time that like we didn't get exactly the same moment with the Kelsier reveal because we'd already read Secret History, but I was like, there's other moments like that coming up and that I'm trying to preserve for y'all so that the surprise will be there. And so there's a couple of those that I'm a huge fan of in some books that we haven't read yet that I'm like, that'll be fun to see the reactions to that if it's anything like my reaction initially.
But there's a few. There's not like this one specific one overall. Just like that's the moment.
No, I don't think so. I don't think that I would say that there's one giant.
Yeah. I mean, like Song of Ice and Fire had others besides the Red Wedding, but like
that's what everyone thinks of just because
that's
how
huge it was.
How huge, but also how just like sudden kind of it was.
Yeah. Well, I think that was also, I read somewhere like that point in the book, that was what made the showrunners decide we need to turn this into a TV show. That scene.
I could see that. Okay, back to the email. Thanks again for putting together an awesome show. Proud to be a patron. Thanks for making me a wind whisper. And excited to read along with whatever book is coming next, for real this time. Listening to the time of next, Katie.
Nice.
Thanks.
Yeah, that was awesome. I don't know. I'm with Jamie on that. I follow Data's lead blindly, so I have no idea what to be excited for.
Okay, one of the ones that I've been saving for a while here. Let's see. This is from Sasha, who we've heard from Sasha for a long time.
Hey.
She's one of our early
Sasha.
friends. This one is called In Partial Defense of Spook.
Okay, go ahead and toss that one away. We'll move on to the next one.
I was like, it was nice talking to you, Sasha.
Yeah. Please write in again about a different topic, and we'll read it on the show. But we're not reading this.
Joe's about to hang up.
Hey, Data, I've got another letter from the future. This one for the Bands of Mourning epilogue episode. And then it cuts into, Dear Jamie, Dak, and Joe. I'm writing this the same week that Chapter 6 aired, which is the one where Marisai talks about the contents of the Lord Mistborn's little book, Oh Spikes. The general reaction was, what the rusting hell, Spook?
Oh, yeah.
Which, yeah, it's pretty disturbing, but I don't think the entire blame lies with Lestiborn's. Recall the ending of Secret History. I'd bet my metal that Spook's interest in hemalurgy was instigated, or at least encouraged, by his partner in crime, One-Eye Kelsier.
Hey, I mean, I'm not disputing that, but
No one's arguing that point.
but you don't need to write it down, man.
And then she sends a follow-up email which goes, on further thought, and particularly in light of Joe's reaction, I'd like to clarify that I'm not absolving Spook of responsibility for his actions, hence the partial part. What I'm saying is that Spook's jaunt down creepy lane happened with Kelsier sitting in the back seat. Bring it on, Joe. Sasha.
Well, if you know anything about me, I don't believe in backseat drivers. You're in control of your own destiny. So when you say, oh well, somebody made me do it, it's like, nah, they really didn't, man. You were just like, oh, he's my friend, he won't steer me wrong. But you know what? You already were doing wrong to begin with. So I'm not into it.
And again, it's like, it's one thing for him to Spook to do it, and there's another to leave the fucking instruction manual behind.
True. Yeah. Why didn't you take that with you wherever you went? If you died, like, have it buried with you. I don't care.
If Kelsey is around,
ask Harmony to come and get it.
Yeah.
Give it back. Give it to the Khandra.
Can you imagine some random Khandra like just gets killed at some point like throughout the history of the world, and as they die, like this book just falls out of their body, and like the people around are just like, what the fuck is that? They pick it up, they start reading. It's like, spiking people to take power. What is this? I don't know, man. Burn it. Sounds like satanic stuff here.
I like the idea of like actual loot dropping when you kill a Khandra.
Right. Oh, less.
What did your Khandra have? No, just a couple of horseshoes.
Look, man, you're not gonna convince me that Spook's not ridiculous. He is. He was flawed in the first books. His logic is flawed now. You know, he tells women he knows why they're sad, and then he breaks up with them. You know, that's not cool. We should put that on the shirt.
So this email, the last email we got, it's a long and interesting sort of thing where this person is doing some chapter by chapter stuff for us. So we'll see what you guys think. This is from Vigo, and
Hi, Vigo.
Yeah, He says, "Hi again, guys. In case you don't remember me, I'm the guy who drew a comparison between the Koloss and the orangutan from the Jungle Book."
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I asked if it was your cat when you
Yeah,
wrote it
yeah.
the first time.
That's the part I remember. Yeah,
Man,
I'm
that
not
was-
sure. Yeah,
That was what, like year one? Year
I
one
don't
and a
know.
bit?
I don't know.
Long ass time ago.
Yes.
Right?
Thanks for sticking with us, man.
Seriously. I'm not sure how late/early I'm sending this, since you guys are a few episodes ahead. If you have already got past chapter 19, well, better late than never. If not, I would recommend waiting to read this until you've gotten to that point in the book at least. I just waited because he's got stuff on all the chapters up through 29, so I waited till we get to the end here. But
Fair enough.
I figured I should write in, seeing as I enjoy an element of the book that most people don't, which is the language of the person you meet in chapter 19. The language is based on Germanic languages, and since I'm from Norway, I can translate most of it. Since it does nothing but add to the story and doesn't contain any spoilers, I figured I would translate it for you guys.
Oh.
Before that, though, a few other things I wanted to say. First off, still enjoying the podcast. Second, I know that this is probably over a year late, but you guys once asked if there was anyone that really liked Zane, and if so, could they write in? I really enjoyed Zane as a character, and who and what Zane's god was the mystery I was the most focused on when reading the book for the first time. Besides, I also really liked the pun that Zane thought he was insane. But yeah, I could give you that. Third, Data, I was wondering if you've read the preview chapters of The Lost Metal, and if so, what did you think? You can, in answer to that, you can sign up for our Patreon if you'd like, and I have recorded my reactions as I read all the preview chapters that have been out so far. So,
Like, I assume that some people may not be necessarily be able to afford it, so like you like give a thumbs up, thumbs down.
well, I mean, it's definitely interesting so far. Not quite what I expected, but it's interesting.
Okay.
Fourth, I would definitely recommend doing something like Alcatraz, interspersed throughout Stormlight, as it's one of those books that doesn't lose much if you forget a few details, and you might do too much to do it all in a row. So, to that point, since Stormlight books are so like bulky and big time commitment, I have considered that maybe we'll intersperse some other stuff in between there, but I'm actually gonna leave that in part up to y'all. I think once we have finished a Stormlight book, I'll be like, okay, so do you guys feel like you're just so eager to know what happens next, you want to move right into the next one, or do you guys kind of want to take a break for a little bit? So that's my plan, is that when we get to those points, I will let you guys have some say in what we're doing.
Cool.
So that answers that. Fifth, if you respond to to respond to the response to my last message, you can indeed burn a double amount of Lerasium alloy, and it would give somewhat of a similar power to having a spike for the same power that you are misting in. Yeah, that gets into some deep stuff that we don't necessarily need to touch on. Now, on to the translations. I sorted them by chapter, so Data can do the translations as you read, which is I could have done, but I didn't, because I didn't want to get into all that other stuff before we got there. So we start with chapter 19, and so these are bits from the book that we have just finished, which was called The Bands of Mourning. Sorry, I'm looking for The Bands of Mourning on my Kindle. Here it is.
It's like, shit, what book are we up to?
Yeah, I didn't forget what it was called, but I was just going to try to bring it up so I can remind everyone. So 19.
You did do the reading, right?
Yeah, 19 is the chapter where we meet our new buddy Alec in his cage, and so it says chapter 19, please, which is what Alec says. That's the only word that Marisai understands is please. While this might just have been him learning the one word please, there's also a possibility that he was using the Norwegian word pliss, P-L-I-S-S, which sounds a lot like please, and is the Norwegian non-formal word for please. Like the word you would use when hanging out with a group of friends, but not the word you would use when sincerely asking for something. He might have used the word because he'd seen that people understood him when he used that word. So next is chapter 20. The first word is he sees Wax using his powers, and he goes, Photonstall. And Marisai goes, yeah, Allomancer. So what Vigo says is Photonstall. This word is a lot of guesswork, and since Marisai assumes he's saying Allomancer, and Allomancer isn't an English word, it could also just be made up. In Norwegian, if there was a double S, it would directly translate to the foot's stable, like a stable for horses, but for a specific foot instead. So make of that what you will.
A foot. Okay.
After Marisai, so in the same scene, he goes Photonstall, Marisai goes, yeah, Allomancer. And then he says, Honor Konge? And so what Vigo says is Honor Konge. This one is a lot easier. Then the last one, and if you replace one N with a space, so it becomes Han er konge, it translates to he is king, or in Norwegian slang, he is awesome. So that fits. And then the last word from this chapter that is translated for us is Marasai is chewing on some painkiller, and then Alex says dieten, dietin, and puts her hand on the wound. So what Vigo says is this word just literally just means the diet. There might be some other meaning in one of the Germanic languages. I don't know enough of them to know what it would mean. Then again, he might just be one of those people that are constantly telling you to go on a diet.
I was like, pick your moment, bro.
Yeah, seriously.
Like, no, it's one way to lose weight.
He's like, you'd be really cute if you just go on a diet. Maybe we'll be in a relationship at some point. If
Oh my god.
Have hot chocolate later.
yeah. What's up with all the chocolate? That's a good question.
I like hot chocolate. I don't know what to tell you. It's a guilty pleasure.
Chapter 21, he translates the name Alec. Names are always much more difficult to translate as they have many different roots. All, A-L-L, means the same in Norwegian and English, so there isn't much to guess there. If there was a third L in the name, it could be an array of different meanings. The word L-I-K means a bunch of different things. It could mean corpse, or the same / equals, the verb like. And while I have to admit that having a person named All Corpses would be pretty cool, I doubt that's what was intended.
Sounds like he's old Spanky.
And then Alex's last name is Never Far, and so it says last names are luckily a bit easier to translate, and I have a pretty good idea what this one means. While it could be that the name translated into English, I believe it's more likely that Brandon has taken inspiration from old Scandinavian last names. Back in that time, it was common to have your last name be one of your parents' first names and add son or daughter to it. For example, last names like Wilson or Odinsson. I believe that Brandon took inspiration from this and instead of adding son or daughter, added father or mother. So father is far in Norwegian, and never, while not a name I have ever heard before, would not strike me as an extremely unusual name. In Norwegian, it translates directly to fists. So now we have All Corpses and his father Fists.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah, I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad is Fisty McGee.
Father Fist just sounds like a real B movie. It's like centered around like some monsters are attacking a town. They have to go to the local preacher to save them. It's like, oh, it's time for Father Fist, and he just goes out and starts punching every monster inside.
Yeah. Or like a bad kung fu movie. It's like Father Fist.
I kick ass for the Lord.
Yeah. It's like he's like the Shredder. He's got the Fist Clan.
Yeah, sure.
Father Fist and the Fist Clan.
I think it makes me think of like a D&D monk because they're very punchy.
Sure.
Yep.
They like to use water whips too.
So the name of the ship, the crash ship, is Brunstel. He says, this one I don't have much on. Brun translates to brown, and Stel translates to take care of. So I don't really know what to do with that information. Take care of the brown. And then the
sounds
last...
like maybe I wasn't really translating anything.
It's still fun, though.
It is fun. But none of these words make sense.
Yeah. The last one is just Yah, Y-A-H, and then he says it's spelled J-A, and that means yes, which, yeah, I got that.
Yeah.
Okay, that was chapter 21. Chapter 22, Wilg, W-I-L-G, that was the name of the smaller ship that came out of the bigger one. This one I have nothing on. If you twist it enough, it could mean V-I-L-L, meaning wild, but that's a big stretch. Then we have Jägenmeier. This one I also have very little on. The start could mean hunter, which, yeah, that's what Jaeger, but I wouldn't put money on that. Herr and Fru, these literally mean Mr. and Mrs., but could also mean Lord and Lady. And then Svel, S-V-E-L. The closest name to this in Norwegian is Sven, which just means young man, and there isn't really any other meaning. And then we have Et metal, and that directly translates to a metal. But if you think of it in a bit more flowery way, it could mean something like the one metal. Okay, yeah. Okay, so then chapter 28. Only 2 chapters left of this. Okay, so after Steris and Alec watch Marasai fly off into the sky, he says, "Forelate men!" exclamation point, and then waves his hand in a gesture and says, "For Salvin." And so what Vigo says is for late men. If you take away the first A, it directly translates to leave men, which he's telling her to run. So I guess that does make sense. And then for Salvin, he says if you take away the A and the I, it means disappear. If you take away the A and the I, that's Forslvn. Forslvn. That's hard to say. I could understand why you would add more vowels to that if you were writing it into a book. And then lastly, 29, Jordis is the name of the captain. And he says this is similar to a few Norwegian names, but we don't know the origin of those names, or they sound too different from Jordis. It does, however, translate directly into earth ice or dirt ice, which I find quite fitting, seeing as they think of this time as an ice age, and therefore a name that could be interpreted as earth is ice has a nice sound to it.
Sure.
And then the other person, the engine master or whatever, was called Petrine or Petrine, and he says this is an actual Norwegian name that 84 people have. It's the male form of Peter and means rock, stone, or cliff. Hope you guys are doing well. Vigo.
Sorry, can we just go back to 84 people have been named that?
Yeah, that's so specific. I know, right? I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I don't know. Peter is such a common name here. With that equivalent, it's clearly not a common name, like a Norwegian name.
Yeah, I don't know why the 84 specifically. I don't get it, but
Yeah, that is strange.
maybe they have like a public database of names that have been used in the country.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And when you think about so many cultures, like there's Petra and Pietro, and they're all kind of variations of the same name. I would just 84. I'm shocked. I learned something new today. Wow.
Yeah.
I'll forget it by the end of this podcast.
Thank you, Vigo. I don't know how accurate any of that was, but it was fun. It was very entertaining, and for all I know, Vigo's not even Norwegian. He's just making some crazy shit up. But I had fun with it, so that's what matters.
This has been the etymology portion of the podcast.
And I could have done as he suggested and read those as we went along, but I elected not to because I didn't want to potentially, pick and choose something bad in there that might reveal something coming up or something. So sometimes it's better for you not to know what he's trying to say.
It's true.
So if anyone would like to send us an email, like those folks did, the email address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. That's thesanderlanche with a THE at the beginning and an E at the end. Those are the points of contention that we've come up against at times.
And a Lanche in the middle with no E.
Yeah.
Because E on the end. Yeah. I'm not helping.
No. Nobody listen.
Let me do it. TheSanderlanche@gmail.
gmail.com.
Sure.
In case you didn't know that part. Oh gosh. You can find us online on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and Patreon and various other places like that. As I mentioned, I have been posting my reactions to live reading the chapters of the Bands of Mourning. So that is what's happening on the Patreon just now.
The Lost Metal rather than the Bands of Mourning?
Oh, did I say the Bands of Mourning? I was looking at the Bands of Mourning, and so yeah. Sorry. Yes, the Lost Metal. Thank you.
Yeah, not the book we already read.
Yeah, I'm reading that one again just for fun.
Posting his 20th time reaction to it.
As Joe mentioned, we will be at last week for everyone listening to this episode. We'll have come back. Yeah, we will have attended the Dragonsteel mini-con, and we may do some patron content where Joe and I talk about some stuff that happened there, depending on what goes on. So that may be another thing you see pop up.
Music by Miracle of Sound.
So yes, for next time, remember we're finishing up the short story Perfect State, or maybe novella. I don't know which category this falls into. I
think it's a novella. It has chapters.
Okay.
I'll
buy
novella.
That. So we're finishing that up for next time. If anyone's reading along, I hope you've enjoyed our little detour out of the Cosmere as we go into Perfect State, which I like Perfect State a lot. I think I had it in my original list of where I have everything laid out, what we're going to do, what we're going to read, and when we're going to read it. This was towards the bottom of the list. It was going to be one of the very last things we read, and my note says, weird and interesting novella. So We're gonna finish that up next time, and I guess that'll move off of the end of the list, and then who knows, some of these other non-Cosmere items, as someone suggested, may end up popping in at different times. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I know you guys were hounding Data for some perfect state. Well, wait no longer. It's not at the end of the list now.
Well, it's funny because as soon as not the last episode that we recorded, because that one hasn't come out yet. The one before that was the one where I was like, I haven't decided yet what we're gonna do next, and we might pick something small and put it in here. As soon as the day that episode came out, a bunch of people on the Discord were like, "Hey, perfect state would be the perfect size for this." And so we'd already recorded the next episode where I was like, "We're gonna do perfect state next." So I thought that was pretty fun. But yeah, it was a recommendation that many people made in the Discord. So I guess maybe on some level they were like, "Hey, we're waiting for it."
Perfect state, give it to us now.
And so after the next episode where we finish Perfect State, we will either be moving directly into the Lost Metal, or we will be starting Warbreaker. So I guess we'll have to see which way it goes. I think I'm with everybody else here and hoping that there will be a way that we can just finish Mistborn and we don't have to like leave this story and come back and finish the story way down the line. But I'll have to see what's best for the show.
I mean, it's also at your discretion, because I mean, so like, how many people just said like, no, you can't do Secret History until after we do Bands of Mourning. We decided, nah, fuck that.
Oh yeah, no, I know it's absolutely up to my discretion. That's why I was just like, I'm gonna pick what I think is best for the show, and I'm 100% the only one deciding what's best for the show, because you guys have no idea what's coming up next, and I'm
so we'll let Joe decide what we're gonna read next. Well, give me a list and I'll just play eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and we are gonna bring in what's the third book in the Stormlight Archives?
That would be Oathbringer.
We're gonna read that first before the other two.
It's like Joe just goes off script completely. It's like, for the next book we're reading, it's H.G. Wells' The Invisible Man. Let's go.
Yeah. Let's read The Invisible Man that's about racism instead. That's even more off the beaten track.
Yeah,
I forget the author of that book.
I definitely consider what other people have to say, but ultimately I had a vision for the show from before I even suggested to Dak that we do it. I think Dak may have been the person I talked to first. Maybe it was Joe. I don't remember. One of the two. But
that was a while ago.
Yeah, it's been so long now. Before I even suggested it, I had a vision for how the whole thing would go. So while I am happy to get opinions and listen to other people, I am going to be making a decision. But like I said, I am also hoping that once I read it, I will be able to be like, okay, so it's best for the show to do Mistborn next. But I'm going to go with what I think is going to be best, and it may come down to a case of, there's this amazing Red Wedding moment down the line, and I don't want to lose it, so I'm going to keep us on this certain track. We'll see.
Sure.
So tune in next week to find out which way that's going to go. I'm interested to find out also. So
find out how Data puts his foot down in the next episode of The Sanderlanche.
So wait, I know Vince is. Sorry, you were saying, Jamie?
Do we need a foot stable?
We need a foot stable for the foot. Yes, I love it.
Yes.
What day is the book out again?
It will come out the 15th, which is
okay. So only Tuesday. All right, so a couple of days.
It's Tuesday. Yeah.
Oh, so like you guys get back from the con and it's out then?
Well, I mean, we'll be the release party for the book on Tuesday. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. All right. So
I will also probably just go ahead and purchase a copy then, but I will not read it.
Yeah, and I'm assuming, Data, you will just straight up, like, once you get home, or probably on the plane ride home, you'll just finish the book.
So I will definitely that's going to be part of the issue, because I've promised that I'm going to record my reactions.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm not going to sit on the plane and do that. That would look really weird.
Yeah.
So I may.
He can't do it in the hotel room with me.
The flight attendant. Oh my God, this just happened. The flight attendant's like, get the fuck away from me.
And I can't do it in the hotel room with Joe, exactly. So I may have to wait.
He's also
back.
We're also sitting next to each other on the plane, so he'll probably have to wait no matter what.
It's like, hey, does anyone want to switch seats?
He's just like, Joe, leave the hotel room, go somewhere else for a while. I gotta do this.
Beyond all of that, music by Miracle of Sound, and Wuzzing to the Time of Next. Colo?